Hi, I'm Diane Lucas, and welcome to Abstract Essay, where ideas take place, thoughts find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's a human strategist dedicated to empowering corporate decision makers to navigate intricate landscapes of human potential. No other than Miss Jessica Martin.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome on Abstract Essay, Miss Jessica. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Oh my gosh. Well, I specialize in working with corporations and their human behaviors and strategies. And so I've done that for quite a few years now, from going inside companies and helping scale them, people who are launching companies, and being able to shift cultures inside their company because we've gotten so far away from the human being.
Miss Jessica Martin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about the unnoticed burnout, signs of C-suite leaders, and roots of the blindness structured and to uncover systemic, psychological, and cultural layers. What's a subtle shift in decision making signal burnout but get dismissed as a strategic caution?
Well, I think a lot of times there's a misunderstanding about burnout as a whole, right? Most burnout's kind of new language. It is recognized by the WHO, but it's not necessarily recognized by like insurance providers and companies because it's taboo to talk about.
Yes.
It kind of bridges that mental wellness area. And at the same time, a lot of people that are burnt out, it's a harder time for them to admit because they see it as a weakness. And so this subtlety shift you see is in your own behavior. You have to self-identify because if you take an assessment for burnout, which you can do, it's very similar to other like stress, anxiety, other well-being type of assessments. So it's that subtle. It really boils down to the individual going, I don't want to show up anymore. I don't have that fire inside me. I was so tenacious 6 months ago, and now I am calling out, right? Or I'm approving things that maybe I should have looked at more. So when you're looking at that subtlety, it is what's that process in your own brain, and you have to be able to recognize it and admit it in order to start coming out of it and figuring out how you got there.
Very empowering answer, Miss Jessica. And beyond irritability, what nuanced emotional changes do burnout leaders hide behind professionalism?
I think a lot of the leaders hide away from burnout and all of this. Like I said, there's a stigma, right? People, I was on this show actually a couple months ago, and they were saying, well, the leaders shouldn't get burnt out. The employees are the ones getting burnt out. Society is getting burnt out. That's the reality of it. But inside the constructs of how our societies are built in most countries, we're driven by currency and we're driven by financial. And so because we're driven by that, we really need to shift our focus away from society as a whole and look at our corporations because they're the driver of this. And if we are going to work to make income and our employers are offering us options that are for burnout or other mindfulness, wellness type programs or options, then what's happening is it's getting embedded in the culture. Because once it changes in that culture, that is a huge stress relief for the rest of the quality of your life. And it's not just employees, it's not just high performers. Most of my time, I'm working with executives and they are burnout. They're in decision fatigue. Before 7 a.m. in the morning, they have made more decisions than most people in the day. And they're just peppered with that all day long of having to make decisions, and they have to shift their hats very quickly. They might go into a meeting with somebody and being having a heart to heart conversation and talking about their career and their goals, and then you know right after that, be like 2 minutes later, they're in another meeting where they're dealing with billion-dollar budgets and having to make decisions on where to move money around. And then they also have someone to answer to. Someone always has someone to answer to. And so it burnout, when we're looking at this as a company culture and the tabooness of it, nobody really wants to admit they have it because they feel weaker. They also feel like their peers are going to judge them. They can't really take the time away and the space that they need to reset and recalibrate. And so that's why a lot of times I'll come in and I'm just coaching behind the scenes, right? And I watch what's happening in the meetings, what's their day like, and being able to create something that is more efficient and effective for them so that they can go back to doing what they love and that they were so talented in doing.
Very well said, Miss Jessica. Beautifully articulated. Tell us, how does physical presence without engagement masquerade as a dedication while signaling exhaustion?
When you're going around living in a facade, it's exhausting. So when you are masquerading, you will end up putting in more effort living in this facade than you are actually being present in the moment. And it has to do with actually how our brains work. So with our brains, we're in these, there's different triggers, right? There's the reptilian part of our brain, which is the language most people are familiar with. And that's the part where as we get heightened, our blood starts flowing into our brain and flooding it. And we get to these basic instincts. And it's not high level thinking using our frontal cortex. And when we're using these other higher level thinkings of our brain, it makes it so that we are making better decisions. We're looking at things holistically. It's not just emotion and survival. And so I think it's really important that instead of being in a facade, masquerading as something else, you really actually need to be authentic. That's with your voice, with the things that matter to you. A big part of why people get burnt out is at some point they lost the connection of their core values and their beliefs, and they let the corporate culture bias start telling them what those were. And then they get lost and disconnected with their own personal soul and their identity. And that is a stressor that continues to build and create a detachment, and you get an internal disorientation. And it makes it so you can't calm down. You can't deal with stress. Usually people don't get that far escalated before I'm in, because especially since I'm working with executives, they can very quickly go, I'm off my game. Like, what's going on? And we can kind of start talking and unpacking these things and looking at what the environment is and identify what needs to change to get back on track. Because usually at that level, you have to perform so quickly at a nonstop pace that you notice very quickly if you're off your game.
Yes, definitely. And when leaders lose passion for vision casting, How or how do delegate on high reward tasks? How does this reveal identity burnout?
When with the delegation of the tasks, it's really about your hiring practices and who you have around you. Because as an executive, your job is to take the company and your organization in a particular direction. And so if you're not able to do that because you're busy building PowerPoints, prepping meeting notes, whatever these types of things are, running all the projects that need to happen, you're in the weeds. You're not thinking holistically, and you're not actually able to perform and get your whole organization to follow. As an executive, your job is to lead. And so you have to be able to have the right people on your team. So you need someone who's very logical and can look at things from this perspective. You need to have somebody who is very good at human behavior and can look at things from this perspective. Like human factors engineering is something that is an industry that is continuing to grow, and we're seeing it come back into the corporate environment. Same with human behavior, because those are required in order to keep motivating people. The inspiration, when you lose it as an executive, your team loses it. And so you need these people in place that can take care of things, that will run your programs, will run your projects, who know how to status. And if they don't, you need to teach them how to, because that's what's going to free you and make it so that you can trust them and delegate. And so it's how you do that and build that infrastructure, but then also how you start coaching them and setting them up.
Very well said again, Miss Jessica. And what small habits like increased caffeine dependence, abandoning non work habits, or avoiding eye contact are overlooked as a business, not distress?
I think when you look at things like the caffeine, for example,
Yes.
sorry, my dog wants up.
No
She's
worries.
not gonna. She won't stop until I get her. Um,
No
so
worries.
thanks. The when you look at caffeine, and I don't get me wrong, I love coffee. I love it.
Yes.
And I actually just switched to decaf later in the day. I really like coffee. So, but when you look at coffee, people when they start getting tired or groggy or just feeling a little fatigued, they go to reach for coffee. The funny
Yes.
thing about that is physiologically, it's nice, right? And it does have its benefits because it's caffeine. But what it does in your brain is not what you think it does. So if you are getting like you're halfway through your day or a couple hours into it, whatever, at any point you're starting to feel like I'm I'm getting worn out already, or I'm feeling a little fatigue or whatever that is, your best option is actually water because of the way that the body works. And so if you put water in your system, not only is it going to flood your system and like filter out all of the toxins that have been building up already in that point of the day, but it also helps the blood flow through your whole system, making it so that your brain is getting fresh blood and it's getting oxygen and it's getting like all the things it needs to continue to operate, and it actually increases your energy more for a longer sustainable period of time than it would if you were to take some type of consumption of caffeine. And so just changing little habits. Like, I mean, you see my copper bottle here. It's 32 ounces. I keep a backup bottle. And then when I walk away from my desk, whichever one is empty, I take it and fill it back up and just keep rotating them throughout the day. And I usually go through 3 or 4 of them throughout the day because thinking it is actually burns more energy than physical activity on your body. Physical activity will get rid of energy. So another thing would be like if you're having a hard time, I guess, settling down, you're maybe gyrating on a thought, or you're finding that you're having an emotional experience that isn't pleasant that you want to move past, take a short walk. right? Or do some breathing exercises where you increase your breath rate and decrease it so that you're getting that energy out. But water is a habit, burning off energy is another great habit, and always making sure you have enough sleep. There's these very simple hacks, right? Like being able to just walk away, and you have to train yourself to take the notes. And I do this. I create an Outlook item for 5 a.m. in the morning, and just all the things that I need to brain dump, just put a task on my calendar. And then when I come back to my desk, I'm like, oh, yeah, these are all the things I was thinking that I needed to finish yesterday before everyone gets here at 7. And so then I'm got all that done. And then at 7 o'clock, I can start my day fresh. And so doing these types of things that are very small and easy, it's just a matter of a pattern and a habit and being able to get in that situation. So then you're improving yourself in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, indeed. Drinks lots of water, people. So, Miss Jessica, as a human strategist, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My goal is to break people free from societal constraints. And that
Yes.
is my long-term goal. I'm just going to keep working through that, and I do it in a variety of ways. This is one of them. My short-term goal is I am 6 months out from my PhD, and I have a stack of books that I've been writing through the process with dissertations and getting all of those published with my new accreditations, and being able to get more people out there the information they need to be able to have a blissful life.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Jessica. And we salute you for doing that. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Don't. No, I'm kidding. um, I think you really have to look internally at yourself and figure out your own path. None of us are the same. And so I would say that if you want to be like me, first do a lot of self-reflection and figure out who you are and really passionate and what your purpose is in life. Once you figure that out, then you start doing all of the things. And when I say all of the things, it's it's everything that you hear out there, but you just slowly implement it so that it's literally a part of your life. And so when, like I said, the 5 a.m. task that I create for myself, my evening rituals, the way I communicate, all the different hacks throughout the day that I have to be able to continue to perform through 3 different companies. That's something that's a pattern that you can fix. But really, what you need to do is figure out what's right for you first and really get clear on that.
Yes, you should know what you want, people. And what is your passion? And thank you for that advice, Miss Jessica. And let's talk about the consequence of unchecked burnout. How does leader burnout stifle creativity, risk taking, and long term strategy, even the financial appear healthy?
Yeah, the funny thing is most of the time people do appear very healthy.
Yes.
And so when you're looking at this, it is a matter of being able to, again, self identify. And when you start seeing yourself derail, take the time necessary to figure out why. It's not just a vacation. And that's the thing, is a lot of people will just check out and they will go take a vacation. They'll take a leave, they'll change careers, they do all kinds of quick fixes. That's not addressing the core challenge. At the core of you is where it is. And that could be you just no longer align with the company you're with. It could be the business industry. It could be the team you're on, right? It could be these things that you just don't align with anymore. And one day you go, this isn't who I am anymore. I've outgrown it. That's being human and completely acceptable. You are allowed to change. But before you make this shift, you need to identify what this really is So that way, when you're stepping into this next stage of whatever it is, if it's just reorganizing your team or creating mindfulness in your team and being aware and changing how you behave together, all those things are fixes. And it's just a matter of what one's right for you. And that's why I always end up doing one-on-ones and just coaching through it and figuring out, why are you burnt out? What is it and based off of that, obviously there's more questions, but we get to the root of it. And then after we identify the root, it's now, what do we want to do? And here's all these different options we have. What option's best for you? And then what's the action strategy and plan behind that? How do we make sure that we are doing what we said we were going to do? What's this transformation look like? I mean, there's so many pieces to these layers of getting through it. Before you get so burnt out, you end up getting physically sick, because that is what happens in our brains. Like I was saying, it's all about how our brains process, because our heart is the thing that has the most information in our body, and it's the one that tells our brain what to do. Then our brain tells the rest of the system what to do. So if you feel something, it's real, and your body has already responded, because if you have realized you're feeling something, the hormones have already released. So that's why I always tell everybody, you've got to meditate, because that's the easiest way to control that process between the heart and the brain, so you can continue to be at that higher level thinking and assessing things appropriately for all of the things that come at you throughout the day in life.
Meditation indeed. Truly, truly empowering answer, Miss Jessica. And what's the internal narratives do leaders use to rationalize ignoring their own limits?
I call them gremlins in your brain. Like, it's just self doubt. It is. So, our brain's job is to protect us and keep us safe. And because of that, a lot of times people have a challenge with experiences or this negative self talk, because as they're trying to go achieve something or do something or change something, the brain's like, whoa, that's not safe. That's not the norm. What are we doing? How are we doing this? We shouldn't do. In fact, let's just stop. And how the brain does that is, that's a bad idea. You shouldn't be doing this. You're not going to succeed. What proof do you have? Who are you to do that? Right? There's all these different pieces of the psychology of what your brain is doing to get you to stop. And it's because it's trying to keep you safe. So instead of panicking and ignoring that negative talk, address it. Where's that coming from? What am I feeling? What am I experiencing? Why can't I make that shift? And really unpack that. And once you do, you'll find that there's something in there that is a very easy fix. And then it releases you and you're just off and running again.
Miss Jessica, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please don't listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in 5th season, abstract poetry in 2nd season, and book 101 review in 5th season too, comedy 101 in 2nd season, and my food 101 in 5th season as well, geography 101 in 4th season, and my baby podcast, law 101 and mental health 101 love letters in 3rd season, and movie 101 and movie 101 review and music 101 in 5th season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its 1st season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Jessica, if a leader's burnout erodes their team's morale or succession pipeline, in their sacrifice truly serving the organization's future?
It definitely does. When you have executives in burnout or employees in burnout, it doesn't matter. All the humans in your company, when they are burnt out, your business will not succeed. It just won't. There's no too much negative energy. You have to shift your culture.
Definitely shift and meditate. Miss Jessica Martin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything that you want to promote right now?
Absolutely. You can go to either of my websites. You can go to blissoutmentor.com or you can go to freedommystic.com. And in both cases, it'll get you to me and you can see all the programs and offerings we have, including the books as they start coming out.
Yes, please do come over, Miss Jessica, and let's talk about it on Book 101 Review and on Abstract Essay. You are most welcome to come back anytime. Yes, people, let's support Miss Jessica Martin because if you support her, for sure, more and more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Miss Jessica, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. This is great. This is lovely. Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.